Sarah meticulously chose her attire for the evening, knowing the importance of this event not just for Tom, but potentially for their future as well. As she stood before the mirror, adjusting her dress and smoothing her hair, her stomach fluttered with a mix of excitement and nerves. This wasn't just any party, it was Tom's annual office party, held at a prestigious downtown venue, renowned for its opulence and the high-profile guests it attracted. Each year the event was a who's who of the industry, and tonight she would be by Tom's side, not just as his wife, but as his partner in navigating the complex social waters of his corporate world. Tom watched her with admiration from the doorway. "You look stunning," he said, his voice warm with appreciation. "Ready to dazzle everyone?" His attempt at lightening the mood did little to soothe her nerves, but she smiled, grateful for his support. Together they reviewed their game plan for the evening: whom to meet, what to say, and most importantly, how to present themselves as a successful, united front. Upon arriving at the party, the grandeur of the venue struck Sarah immediately. The sprawling ballroom was beautifully decorated, every detail meticulously curated to impress. As they made their entrance, a few of Tom's colleagues approached, offering warm greetings and subtle appraisals. Sarah maintained her composure, engaging in small talk, her words measured, her smile fixed. But it was the introduction to Mr. Richardson, Tom's boss, that marked a pivotal moment of the evening. Mr. Richardson was a charismatic leader, his reputation preceding him, a man known for his sharp business acumen and influential connections. His presence dominated the room, and as he approached, his gaze fixed on Sarah, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his lips. "So, you're the brilliant artist Tom can't stop talking about," he exclaimed, his voice booming yet friendly. His handshake was firm, his eyes briefly scanning her with an intensity that made her slightly uncomfortable, though she chalked it up to his nature as a powerful figure used to getting his way. As Tom talked shop with Mr. Richardson, Sarah noticed the subtle shifts in their dynamics. Mr. Richardson's comments were peppered with double entendres, which Tom seemed to dismiss as his boss's peculiar sense of humour. But Sarah felt a growing unease, the weight of Mr. Richardson's gaze lingering a little too long, his compliments straddling the line between polite and inappropriate. She tried to remain engaged, laughing when expected, nodding at the right moments, all the while sensing an undercurrent of something she couldn't quite name. As the night progressed, the initial thrill of the party gave way to a complex web of interactions. With each passing hour, Sarah found herself more observant, more attuned to the nuances of the conversations around her, and increasingly aware of Mr. Richardson's attention. It was clear that this evening was about more than just socializing. It was a dance of power and influence, and she was right in the middle of it. As Sarah continued to navigate through the throngs of finely dressed guests, her attempts to blend in and make small talk were met with polite nods and the occasional disinterested glance. The air was thick with business jargon and corporate achievements, topics she found both alien and slightly intimidating. However, Mr. Richardson seemed to take a particular interest in making sure she felt included, often steering the conversation back towards subjects she could contribute to, like art and design, areas where her expertise shone. With each interaction, Mr. Richardson was disarmingly charming. He asked insightful questions about her work as an artist, praising her for balancing such a creative path with the demands of being a supportive partner to someone as busy as Tom. His compliments, while flattering, were delivered with a level of intensity that felt disproportionate to their casual setting. "It's rare to meet someone so grounded yet so profoundly talented," he remarked, his eyes locked on hers a moment too long, causing her to shift uncomfortably under his gaze. Sarah tried to brush off the unease settling in her stomach, attributing Mr. Richardson's behaviour to perhaps an overly friendly demeanour or a different generation's approach to compliments. But as the evening wore on, his attentiveness seemed to intensify rather than wane. He laughed a little too loudly at her jokes, found reasons to touch her shoulder or arm, and always made sure she was included in any group conversation, often at the expense of others. Despite her discomfort, Sarah maintained her composure, not wanting to make a scene or come across as ungrateful for his efforts to make her feel welcome. She laughed where appropriate, answered questions about her art, and expressed gratitude for his apparent interest in her career. But the growing attention Mr. Richardson lavished on her was starting to draw curious looks from other guests, and she noticed Tom occasionally glancing their way with a mixed expression of pride and concern. As the party progressed, Sarah found herself increasingly on edge, the weight of Mr. Richardson's attention bearing down on her. Each compliment, each lingering glance, added to a silent crescendo of discomfort she felt powerless to escape. She began to question if her initial read of his behaviour as merely polite was a misjudgment. Maybe there was something more deliberate behind his actions, a realization that left her feeling vulnerable in a room full of strangers. In a brief moment alone, Sarah excused herself to the restroom to gather her thoughts. In the solitude of the lavatory, she allowed herself a moment to breathe, to reassess her handling of the situation. It was clear that what she had initially dismissed as friendly hospitality might be something more predatory. She resolved then that if Mr. Richardson's behaviour continued along this troubling trajectory, she would have to confront him, subtly but firmly, making it clear that his advances were neither unnoticed nor welcomed. With a deep breath, she checked her reflection in the mirror, straightened her dress, and prepared to step back into the fray, armed with a renewed sense of agency over her own comfort and boundaries. In the quieter part of the office, Mr. Richardson guided Sarah under the pretense of showing her an innovative project display that Tom had been a significant part of. As they walked away from the main party, the clamour of the crowd softened into a muted hum, creating a more intimate atmosphere that Sarah wasn't entirely comfortable with. Mr. Richardson pointed out various accolades the team had achieved, his voice lowering as they moved further away from the group. As they reached a secluded area of the office, decorated with awards and personal achievements of the staff, Mr. Richardson turned to Sarah with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You know, Sarah, it's refreshing to see someone so supportive and engaged in their spouse's career," he began, his tone shifting subtly. "Tom is a lucky man, not just in his career, but to have someone as charming and attractive as you by his side." Sarah, taken aback by the sudden change in the conversation, managed a polite smile. "Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I'm very proud of Tom and all he's accomplished here." Mr. Richardson stepped closer, his presence imposing. "Please call me Mark," he insisted, his hand lightly touching her arm. "You know, a beautiful woman like you shouldn't just be in the background. Tom must know how lucky he is, but I wonder if he truly appreciates what he has." Feeling the weight of his gaze and the unwelcome touch, Sarah stepped back, her discomfort rising. "I appreciate your kind words about Tom. He's very dedicated to his work here." She attempted to steer the conversation back to a professional tone, hoping Mr. Richardson would take the hint. However, he stepped closer, his intentions becoming clearer. "Sarah, I find myself quite taken with you. You're not only beautiful but intelligent and engaging. It's rare to find someone who possesses both beauty and brains. Maybe we could get to know each other a little better, outside of these corporate walls." Shocked by his blatant advance, Sarah felt her heart race. This was not just friendly conversation, it was an inappropriate proposition that crossed the line. "Mr. Richardson, Mark," she corrected herself, maintaining a firm tone. I am here as Tom's wife, and I respect him and our marriage. I think it's best if we keep our interactions professional." Mr. Richardson paused, his expression hardening briefly before he smoothed his features into a polite smile. "Of course, Sarah, I meant no disrespect. Please accept my apologies if I made you uncomfortable." Feeling the urgent need to leave, Sarah excused herself, citing a need to check on Tom. As she walked quickly back to the main party, her mind raced with how to handle the situation. Should she tell Tom what happened? How would this affect his position at the company? The weight of the decision loomed large as she navigated her way through the crowd, seeking the safety and familiarity of her husband's presence. Back among the bustling crowd, Sarah found herself automatically scanning for Tom, her anxiety a sharp contrast to the laughter and light-hearted conversations happening around her. Locating him amidst a group of colleagues, she approached, her mind a whirlwind of conflicted emotions. Observing him laughing and talking animatedly, she felt a pang of protectiveness and apprehension about bursting the bubble of his professional world with news of his boss's conduct. As she drew closer, Tom noticed her approach and excused himself from the conversation to greet her. His smile was bright, genuine, filled with the ease of a man enjoying his evening, unaware of the undercurrents threatening the peace. "Hey, you disappeared for a bit. Everything okay?" he asked, his voice laced with mild concern as he noted the tension in her expression. Sarah forced a smile, her decision teetering on a knife's edge. Telling him about Mr. Richardson's advances right there, in the middle of the festivity, could cause immediate and potentially drastic repercussions for his career. Yet holding back the truth felt like a betrayal of the trust and openness that had always defined their relationship. "I just needed a little air," she replied, hoping her voice didn't betray the turmoil inside. Tom, seemingly reassured, wrapped an arm around her, guiding her back to the group. "Let's join the others. You'll like this story Eric is telling about our last conference," he suggested, his demeanour light, completely unaware of the storm brewing within Sarah. Throughout the rest of the evening, Sarah played her part, laughing when expected and contributing to conversations, while her mind replayed her encounter with Mr. Richardson. The jovial atmosphere of the party seemed surreal, a stark contrast to the cold, calculating way Mr. Richardson had made his intentions known. The ride home later that evening was quiet. Tom, exhausted from the night's interactions, chatted idly about the party, unaware of Sarah's internal struggle. She listened, her responses automatic, as she weighed the potential fallout of revealing her encounter. Her loyalty to Tom warred with her need to uphold her own integrity and the dynamics of their trust. Upon reaching home, the facade of normalcy was harder to maintain. The safety of their shared space, away from the prying eyes and ears of the corporate world, felt like the last refuge for her wavering resolve. It was here, in the quietude of their living room, that Sarah finally found the courage to speak. "Tom, there's something important I need to tell you about tonight," she began, her voice a mixture of resolve and apprehension. Tom turned to her, his expression shifting from tired contentment to alert concern. "What's wrong, Sarah? You've seemed off since we left the party." Choosing her words carefully, Sarah recounted her interaction with Mr. Richardson, emphasizing her discomfort and the inappropriate nature of his advances. As she spoke, she watched Tom's face pass through confusion, shock, and then anger, not directed at her, but at the situation she had been forced into. The gravity of the revelation hung between them, a test of their unity and Tom's next steps in handling the betrayal from someone he had respected. Tom's reaction was immediate and protective. His initial shock quickly turned into concern for Sarah's well-being. "I can't believe he did that," Tom said, his voice tight with anger and disbelief. "You shouldn't have had to deal with that, Sarah. I'm so sorry." The room felt charged with his palpable upset, but Sarah appreciated that his frustration was directed at the situation, not at her. He paced briefly, trying to process the information. "We need to report this, Sarah. It's not just about us. If he's done this to you, he might do it to someone else." Tom's sense of justice was strong, but Sarah could see the conflict on his face, the struggle between his career aspirations and doing what was morally right. Sarah nodded, her own resolve strengthening with Tom's support. "I agree, but I also know this might complicate things for you at work. I don't want to make a decision without considering everything it might impact," she said, her mind racing through the potential repercussions for both of them. Tom stopped pacing and looked at her, his decision clear in his eyes. "No job is worth compromising our values. We do this together. It's the right thing to do." His definitive stance brought Sarah a deep sense of relief and pride. She was reminded of the strength of their partnership and why she had fallen in love with him. They spent the rest of the evening discussing how to approach the situation. They agreed to draft a formal complaint to the company's HR department, detailing the incident discreetly but clearly. Tom insisted on writing the email together, wanting to ensure it conveyed both the seriousness of the misconduct and their expectation for a respectful workplace. As they crafted the email, Sarah found strength in Tom's unwavering support and in their shared commitment to integrity. It was a difficult email to write, each sentence a reminder of the unpleasantness of the evening. Yet, as they concluded the letter, Sarah felt a weight lifting. Whatever the outcome, they had taken a stand, a crucial step towards not only addressing the wrong, but healing from it. Before they went to bed, Tom wrapped his arms around Sarah, a silent thank you for her bravery and honesty. "Whatever comes from this, we'll handle it together," he promised, his voice firm and reassuring. Sarah leaned into his embrace, her heart lighter despite the uncertainty of what lay ahead. That night, as they lay in bed, the events of the evening still swirling in their thoughts, there was a sense of quiet solidarity between them. They had faced a challenge that could have strained their relationship, but had managed to navigate it with openness and mutual support. This unity gave Sarah hope, not just for the resolution of this particular issue, but for their ability to face future challenges together. Their conversation had started with a difficult revelation, but it had ended with reaffirmed commitment and love, proving once again that honesty and teamwork were the bedrock of their marriage. As they prepared for the meeting with Mr. Richardson, Tom and Sarah discussed their strategy at length. They knew the importance of presenting a united front, being factual and maintaining their composure, no matter how Mr. Richardson reacted. The morning of the meeting, they reviewed their notes one last time, ensuring they were clear on what Sarah would say and how Tom would support her statements. Upon entering Mr. Richardson's office, they were greeted with a cordial handshake, though the air was fraught with underlying tension. Tom led the conversation. "We appreciate you meeting with us, Mark. There's a serious issue we need to discuss concerning an incident at the office party." Mr. Richardson's expression shifted slightly, an imperceptible stiffening of his demeanour as he motioned for them to sit. "Of course, Tom. What seems to be the problem?" Sarah took a deep breath before speaking, her voice steady. "At the party there was a moment when you made me feel very uncomfortable." She paused, ensuring she had Mr. Richardson's full attention. "Your comments and the way you touched me were inappropriate and unprofessional." Mr. Richardson looked taken aback, his brows furrowing slightly. "I assure you, Sarah, that was not my intention. I was merely being friendly. But I apologize if my actions were perceived differently." Tom interjected. "While we appreciate your apology, it's important for us to express that what happened was not just a matter of perception. Actions like those contribute to an uncomfortable work environment." Mr. Richardson nodded slowly, his posture indicating a mix of resignation and defensiveness. "I see. I certainly didn't mean to cause any distress. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. It won't happen again." Sarah and Tom noted his response, the conversation shifting as they discussed the broader implications of such behaviour in the workplace. They emphasised the need for clear boundaries and respect among all staff, regardless of position. The meeting concluded with Mr. Richardson reiterating his apology and assuring them of his commitment to a professional workplace. Tom and Sarah left the office feeling a mixture of relief and unresolved tension, knowing they had taken the right steps, but aware that the dynamics at Tom's job might now be more complicated. As they walked back to their car, Tom thanked Sarah for her courage in speaking up. "I know that wasn't easy, but I'm proud of how you handled it," he said, squeezing her hand. Sarah smiled, feeling validated and supported. "It was important, not just for me, but for anyone else who might find themselves in a similar situation. I'm glad we did it together." The drive home was quiet as they both processed the meeting. While the immediate issue had been addressed, they knew that the real work, ensuring a respectful and safe work environment, was just beginning. They discussed strategies for moving forward, including speaking with HR about formalising policies on workplace conduct. Their partnership had been tested but had emerged stronger, their commitment to honesty and mutual support reaffirmed. After their meeting with Mr. Richardson, Tom and Sarah spent the evening discussing the impact of what had transpired and the steps they needed to take next. They both agreed that reporting the incident to HR was necessary, not just for their own peace of mind, but to ensure that a formal record was established to prevent future occurrences. They drafted an email together to the HR department, detailing the incident without emotional bias and requesting a follow-up meeting to discuss the matter further. As they worked on the email, they reflected on how the incident and its aftermath had affected their relationship. This challenge had brought them closer, allowing them to navigate a difficult situation as a team. They talked about how important trust and open communication were in their relationship, reaffirming their commitment to always address issues directly, no matter how uncomfortable. Tom expressed his admiration for Sarah's strength and integrity in handling the situation. "I know this wasn't easy, but I'm so proud of how you stood up for yourself. It's made me realise just how lucky I am to have you," he said. Sarah appreciated his words, feeling grateful for his unwavering support throughout the ordeal. They also discussed how this experience might affect Tom's position at the company. While they hoped that the issue would be resolved professionally without any backlash, they prepared for the possibility that Tom might need to look for other job opportunities if the work environment became untenable. They agreed to start looking at job listings together, considering what changes might be necessary to maintain both their careers and their well-being. Looking forward, Tom and Sarah plan to use this experience to advocate for better workplace policies on harassment and professional conduct. Sarah felt motivated to possibly volunteer for or start a support group for others who might have experienced similar situations. They saw an opportunity to turn a negative experience into a positive outcome by helping others. As they prepared for bed, Tom and Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment in how they had handled the situation, despite its difficulties. They knew they still had challenges ahead, but they felt equipped to face them together, stronger and more united than ever. Their conversation that night reaffirmed their love and respect for each other, highlighting the deep bond that had carried them through this ordeal and would continue to sustain them in the future. This experience, while troubling, had underscored the importance of facing challenges together, and they fell asleep with a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to not just each other, but to making a difference in their community and workplace.